It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. It's Feedback Friday. And I look like a hot mess right now. I recorded this video earlier where I was more fresh as a daisy. And then I went to upload it and there was no audio. So I'm doing this again. Go me. But that's okay. Because there are some things I've thought more of. Most notably the way in. And this is a sort of kind of understanding point where when you're in my seat with these sort of parasocial things, it's not truly parasocial because comments are directly social, right? But it's hard for you guys to know what it's like to be here. And it's sometimes hard for me to know what it's like to be you guys, right? Because even if I watch someone else's video, it's not the same as just a normie, right? It's coming from a place of meanness. You know what I mean, right? I don't have to define this. Hopefully not. Let me do the Patreon stuff before I get into this. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. I am up to 6 subsidized sessions a week. That's where we're at now. Partially it's the time of year. Partially it's people who started off, can still use it, can no longer afford it because of life stuff. So if you can kick in, anything, it's appreciated. But okay. One of the interesting things that happened is I had multiple people say to me on Wednesday's video, on Wellness Wednesday's video, that when they heard me say, okay, here's a thing from Twitter, people tend to, I hope it's not me. Now, the comment from Twitter was not anybody who watches these videos, just so everybody knows. But I thought it was interesting, and I'm like, and then I realized, this is one of those things that is worth keeping in mind because I think people don't realize what it's like to be in my place and get insulted and misquoted and lied about and called out all the time. And what it's resulted in is me going, well, people who call me out and directly attack me, the assumption is they should be able to take a little give back, right? And that's not always so. And there is a gap between that is reasonable, that is a fair rule to set, and somebody actually being able to take it, right? They're not the same thing. But a reminder, as long as you do not directly attack someone, and open bigotry is directly attacking someone in my book. But that's a difference of opinion. The minute you start going, because you did this and it's unproved, that's a direct attack. And, if you dish it out in my world, you should be able to take it. I'm only bringing this up as sort of an empathy point. Well, not sort of, as an empathy point. Try to understand what it's like. Monday to Friday, well, and Sundays too, because I have to upload. But every day, I open up comments, and someone's insulted me. And someone's called me a name. And someone's made a false claim about me. And somebody's jumped to conclusions about my motivations. And this, and that, and this, Over time, it does affect you. And I'm not saying, oh, my mental health. No, it's not that. It's just a slow creep of understanding what is considered fair, right? A person who is constantly insulted and constantly put down and constantly this and constantly that. Well, if those are the rules, those are the rules. Right? And then, and yes, the people who are afraid that it was their comment are not the same people as the ones slinging the shit. Which is another thing that's weird. Like, if you're not slinging shit, why would you be worried? This stuff doesn't necessarily make sense because it's emotional responses, right? And that's what it comes down to. Humans are not machines. Humans speak inexactly. People use heuristics. People ask. You know, it's the simplest version of it is that whole, hey, how are you? And it's not actually, when I ask that, it's, I actually want to know how the person is. But for a lot of people, it's just a nicety. Hi, how are you? I'm fine, even if you're not. Right? And I was sort of reminded of that when I was at the Christmas party. I think I brought this up on Monday, but at the Christmas party over the weekend, and it was sort of more neurotypical socialization, and everything was just ish, right? You know that what Don Hertzfeld cartoons, you know, my anus is bleeding for the love of God, you know, that one. But there's that one bit of, would you like to go to a movie? I'm feeling fat and sassy. Right? It's just people talking past each other. That's what neurotypical socialization is kind of like. There's all these weird, invisible connective tissue on conversations that I have to code switch, right? And all that was preamble to talking about kind of the unintentional theme for the week, which is trying to figure out what people actually mean when people do not mean what they say. And this was inspired by somebody who leapt to the defense of the commenter on Monday. So the commenter that I talked about on Wednesday, saying, I think you were unfair. This is what he's clearly communicating. And it's like, but that wasn't what he said. Those were inferences based on the person having a similar communication style. That's not a fair leap to make someone do. But people do it all the time, right? And I want to encourage people saying what they mean and meaning what they say. And this commenter completely missed the point of what I was saying, that there was a better way to say that, and you'll get better results if you say it in the better way, if you say it in the less aggressive, less accusatory, more neutral way, you'll get better results. It's fine because I understood it. Well, that's when you get into privileging one type of communication style over another type of communication style. And I don't like that, because in that game, all of us introverts lose. And I would rather work in a space where that doesn't happen. And the other thing that people are like, yeah, I thought that too, was the thing where I said, it's a men's bubble. Why would I be running it? And people are like, he wasn't the only one who thought that. And I'm like, that doesn't contradict the fact it's a men's bubble. Why would I be running it? The whole point is, was that a reasonable assumption to make, especially since on the form, it actually lists Adam as well as me as the moderator, and that means the facilitator's doing it. I'm just there. What happened was, it's the first one, so I'm just there to make sure everything's okay. I have my mic muted. I don't say anything unless I'm directly addressed. And I didn't think I had to say that because men's. But this is the realities of modern communication, right? People just, and I don't know why, with all, it's like the more we talk about diversity in empty terms, and the more it becomes a game of, and I'm taking this from one client who, hates rote memorization, the more inclusion becomes this game of rote memorization, the more it's like we're losing sight of the fact that there are, 25 subcategories in the Big Five personality index. There are 16 Myers-Briggs categories. There are numerous permutations of Enneagrams. Whatever personality thing you subscribe to, none of them are perfect. None of them are straight out science. They're tools. But different people interpret things in different ways. Different people communicate in different ways. And that means everybody needs to have some responsibility for considering other people and recognizing that you cannot min-max a conversation. It's always going to be a bit ish. It's fine to say I don't know. It's fine to say I don't understand. It's much better to just ask a question than to level an accusation. But people don't. And so I dig deeper, right? Because the number of things, and I know part of it is the time of year, people are starting to lose their shit. And, there's a reason It's Not Therapy was having a less horrible holiday this week. But the number of people who, just this week alone, who are just putting words in people's mouths and accusing people of lying when somebody was merely mistaken, and having a casual conversation on Twitter just going, that isn't relevant and stuff like that. You don't get to unilaterally determine whether something is relevant to a conversation. You can say, I don't see how that's relevant, but you are not the god of talking. Royal you. And I don't understand how someone gets to adulthood talking that way. And then I'm like, wait, I do. People tend to take on the verbal tics of the people who abuse them. So that is someone trying to emulate their disapproving dad who put the fear of God into them their entire childhood. It's amazing how many people just emulate the way the shittiest person in their young life talked. And the problem with that is they're going through life getting bad results. And they don't know why. And no one takes the time to try to explain to them why. And you know why people don't take the time to explain to them why? Because you know what happens when you do? You get your fucking head bitten off. Welcome to my life, right? And I continue to do it because I truly believe in giving people the maximum number of reasonable chances. But the other reason I continue to do it is I'm just a person who bites back and sometimes and really doesn't care if I care if somebody gets legitimately hurt. I really don't care if somebody gets their nose out of joint. I never do something intending to be hurtful. I do stuff intending to call out hypocrisy and putting someone in check and seeing if, they are willing to be held to their own standards. And that's sort of my rule of, because everybody has different lines. That's okay. As long as people are not insisting on one set of rules for them and another set of rules for everyone else. I'm good with whatever lines a person draws, whatever rules a person sets, as long as they will live by them. And the truth is that, and this is why I was like, what? And all the bubblehead facilitators like, what? With that stuff about this idea that someone is going to be just kicked out and hounded to the ends of the earth for a single transgression. And I did a lot of digging into this because I think this is connected into the loneliness and the sense of rejection and everything like that. I think there's a lot of vicarious trauma. There's a lot of vicarious rejection going on out there because I talk to people who are terrified of this. And there are some people, like I have this one client, dude has had a shit time of it. Like, I'm not going to get into it, but you know, you can see my face. Like, how does someone treat a child that way? Shit time of it. And that's one thing. If somebody has a rejection, a severe rejection sensitivity, for a lot of people to the point where it causes dysphoria, and they can point to things where, okay, this happened and we can work on it and we can close that chapter and start a new one where this doesn't haunt you anymore. And it'll take work, but there's a playbook here. When someone is terrified of that and nothing's happened to them, it's because of what's in the news and stories they've heard and things they've witnessed. That is a much bigger problem because obviously the news skews stories like that. Trust me, as somebody who's been the subject of hit pieces and hatchet jobs and bullshit, it's amazing how often reporters just get things wrong. And even when the reporter gets it right, now there are no editors, so, well, except in the big things. But even when a reporter would get something right, an editor would go in and tweak words and stuff like that and change the meaning to the point that it was no longer accurate. And because the Globe and Mail did that to me, and if you know anything about the Globe and Mail, it's a fairly prestigious Canadian newspaper. It did that to me. And so when I was a journalist, I wouldn't do that to other people. I would look over something if I could, and if an editor changed anything and I thought it skewed the meaning of it, I fought it. It made me pretty unpopular, but I knew what it was like to be the unfortunate recipient of such coverage, and I won't do it to another person if I can, I'm not going to be a part of that if I can at all help it. Now, there are times where, they just refuse to change it, but those are rare. The interesting thing is they'll make corrections in text, but when someone says you don't have the right to use my picture, please take it down. It's amazing how many left-wing publications say, well, it was on the internet. The number of bikini pics of me that have been used in things that have nothing to do with me. And it'll be, look, you didn't pay for that photo. This has nothing to do. Can you please take it down? Well, it's on the internet. It's fair game. Okay, great leftist defenders of women. Right? This is why I'm cynical. And so I understand the cynicism out there. I understand the distrust out there. Where I get frustrated is the jumps. And this is because I see where it's leading to unnecessary misery. A client emailed me about Monday's video, and what did he say? I should have had this pulled up. But he basically said, so many belief structures just blame some external force, and people ultimately aren't given a path to success. It's just explain your life sucks because of, X, and there's nothing you can do other than be miserable. Everything is black pilled. Every belief system has some sort of black pill element of it with, we're not going to tell you how to succeed. We're just going to give you the language of your failure, and not even failure. We're going to tell you why you shouldn't try because it's impossible. And psychologically, that's terrible. And I'm getting more frustrated by it because of the number of people I see damaged by it. Because what happens at first, there's either the real or perceived rejection, right? And so then people get avoidant. And it's, well, this bad thing might happen. Well, this bad thing is likely to happen. Well, this bad thing will definitely happen, so I'm not going to try. That's one bucket of unnecessary misery. Then you get the conflict aversion added in, where you're afraid of rejection, so you're so afraid of rejection, so you do something that's going to make you more likely to get rejected, right? In this case, instead of just asking a question, you take a cheap swing at someone because you're scared. And my attitude is, at this point, I'm a known commodity. And people who I've seen in the comment section long enough, I do think that at this point, my responses to certain things are fairly predictable. So you come at me hard, right? I've also been playing God of War, so I'm at peak Kratos right now. So if somebody does this with why don't you give it a chance? No. Kratos brain, right? But then there's the one, and I admit, the victim shit, and I'm calling it victim shit to separate it from legitimate cases where people are victims. Like that guy I told you about, legitimate victim right there. And yeah, men are victims sometimes. The language of victimhood where it's not appropriate enrages me because of the number of times where people just assume I'm going to be like that, and so they don't give me a chance. I've lost work, I've lost opportunities, I've lost assignments because, she's not going to be able to hack it. When you get a trauma diagnosis, you get helpfully excluded from things for your own good. Right? It's enraging. Because it's infantilizing a person. And when someone else does it, I just get pissed off. And so it's like, oh, I'm scared because of how you are on Twitter. It's fucking Twitter. I'm scared I won't be able to leave a Zoom call. It's a fucking Zoom call. Like I said, there are just basic bare minimums where this is not reasonable. It's reasonable to go, what are your policies for conflict resolution? If you go to the form on the bubbles, it's right there. It's a few screens down on the sign-up form just because it was this block of text before people got to the meat, but it is there. It is impossible to factor in every catastrophic negative assumption someone could possibly come up with. And there is some personal responsibility here. And I am trying to listen through the noise. But try to understand, a person in my position, we can only eat so much shit until we become exhausted and just go, I don't care anymore. Because the amount of basic filtering to understand meaning nowadays is... The incels thing, I think, really brings it into focus. You know, the fact that it's not actually about sex. And that's the part of it to me that actually makes sense. And quite a few people this week said, the word has been reduced to this cheap insult. It's the equivalent of neckbeard or mouth breather. And that is a usage. I don't use incel as an insult because I don't believe in mocking someone's sexuality. And that is mocking someone's sexuality. And I try to tell people, please don't do that. Whenever I see it, I miss some. But, I mean, there's a shining example of the whole incel thing isn't actually about sex. It's about, I'm paraphrasing this one comment where they said, yeah, the reason that having sex with a sex worker doesn't take away your incel status is because it's all about someone wanting to have sex with you. It's the desirability. It's the validation. And that makes sense to me. And we get into this idea of choice and responsibility, accountability, and honor again. Because I do think that this is partially social construct territory. What do I mean? Please hear me out, okay? It just seems that people, even a few years younger than me, because I'm Gen X, millennial socialization is very different. They're raised with this terror of making mistakes. And it is not impossible. It's not possible to go through life without making mistakes, but people try. Because everything is teach the test. I really do believe it's the mentality behind standardized testing and test, get a mark. The not learning how to handle subjectivity, not knowing how to handle uncertainty, not just having to accept that sometimes things don't go your way has, and I'm trying to find a word here that isn't an unintentional pejorative. It's robbed people of resiliency. It's robbed people of rejection immunity, right? It's the difference between something being disappointing and something feeling like you're going to die. It hurts so bad. And that's where I get into the involuntary thing. Because if you're interested in women and you're not going out meeting women and you're not talking to women and you're not working on your socialization and dressing nicely or not dressing nicely, but working on your personality or being funny, or if you're not making choices that opt you in, you are voluntarily opting out. Now, I know some guys who are doing everything. They're doing the dating profiles and they're going to the singles nights and they're doing this and they're doing that and they're doing that. And they're still it's not working out. That's involuntary, right? That's involuntary. When you are opting out, that is a choice. And that's why I think that an ownership of choice is very important, because there used to be the idea of bachelordom, even the men going their own way movement, who are sort of embracing that, yep, we're going to live a life without women. You know what? That's a choice. Good for you. I can respect that, despite some of the misogynistic language on those boards, because it's a choice. And it's the cognitive distortion, it's the cognitive fault in referring to your situation as involuntary when you're not taking the steps to get there. I don't believe it's deliberate hypocrisy. I believe it's bad code. And this is not true just of sex. I think we super overvalue sex. For people that don't, have that much experience physically, I'm going to use euphemisms. You're your best test driver, okay? Because when it's you calling the shots, so to speak, you can get things exactly the way you want it. The partner is the connection with the other person, and sex is not the only way to get that. For pure physical sensation, the self-drive, the self-guided tour is the best physical sensation a lot of the time, especially when you have somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing or are drunk. Drunk sex is shit. That's the truth. All this other stuff is emotional validation, like the commenter said. And there are other ways of getting that. In fact, I can think of pretty much any other way that is better than hooking up to get that emotional validation, to get validated as a human. And this is what I want to encourage. And sometimes that means being rough. Sometimes that means ripping the Band-Aid off, because there is no easy way to say these things you think are involuntary, they're actually not. You're making choices, right? And that's true of, the FOMO thing, the upward social comparisons. Oh, you're sitting there and, oh, I have this and oh, I have this. Well, are you getting up and working on it every day? Or are you fucking around watching YouTube videos instead of drawing your comic or making your music, or, right? That's a choice. Now, this rules out ADHD periods, depression, anxiety, right? Right. And that's why I tell people with those conditions to be gentle with themselves, that it's their race. As long as they're making progress, as long as they're further along than they were, you're doing okay. And I'm going to share with you something I shared with a client this week to help you visualize, like, mindset with this, because anything you're doing, you are going to fail the first few times, more than a few times, right? And I'm not telling you anything I haven't done. I show up here and I get dogpiled and I get reamed and I get told off and told I'm shit and this. Like, I understand mockery. I understand rejection. I understand fucking derision. Okay, so don't tell me I don't know. But you think of it like a roguelike video game, right? This is not a maze chase, or this is not something where you just clear the level. You go as far as you can until you tap out. And then you start back at start, but you've collected some sort of currency, some sort of XP, something that you level up your skills and you go again. And you get as far as you can. And then you go back and you take the resources and you level up. That is socialization, that is career building, that is project development, that is anything where there's going to be a bump in the road somewhere. That is how it works. If you want to understand how to get better at this stuff, if you want to understand the choices you truly have, play roguelike games or roguelite. Play Hades. It's pretty. Because that is how it works. If somebody rejects you, if somebody talks shit about you, that is not your failing, right? They could be a mean person. If somebody rejects you, they're not your people, right? You can go, okay, I think I made a mistake here. If it is. Now, somebody gave me an interesting bit of insight. 2 different people, actually. People on the autism spectrum are so used to being corrected that they assume that if they have a bad social interaction, it is their fault. And that is not necessarily true. Sometimes the person you're talking to is just a dick. Gender neutral term. And that's something we can work on. Right? I mean bubble facilitator, so on and so forth. I have somebody that runs that kind of stuff. That's not, but that kind of stuff, that kind of mindset, that's something that legitimately is done to someone that we can work on. But people have to be willing to trust and take the first step. And if you're not ready to take the first step, that's cool. But that is your choice. That is not something I did to you. And I am not helping anybody by enabling that. Which is why I came out swinging, which is why I came out rough. Because most people have more choices than they realize. And it's sometimes hard. I remember when I was deep in trauma, I had trouble seeing the choices and control I actually had. So, I speak from experience here. But you do have more choices than you realize. And the first step to being happy, or the first step to a social life and better job and everything like that, is working with the choices you do have. Seeing what's voluntary, not what's involuntary. Hope this helped. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use if you can't afford it. 6 a week now. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend.